I need a nap. Well, that was a movie. Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm giving my first thoughts on the new theatrically released Scooby-Doo film, Scoob. And I put quotation marks on theatrically released because it was supposed to be, but because of the whole pandemic thing, it wasn't, and we just got it on video on demand. This was supposed to be theatrically released, though. It was made for that, so it should be of a higher quality than the ones we get direct to video every year, right? Well... No, it's not. So first thing to get out of the way, we have a whole new cast aside from Frank Welker as Scooby-Doo, who often does the Scooby-Doo voice as he's been doing it since the early 2000s. He is one of the greatest voice actors of all time, but his rendition of Scooby has gotten worse as the years have gone on. He is much older now, and I don't think he's as good as a Scooby voice as he used to be. That being said, he is the best part about the casting in this movie of the gang. The rest of the gang being Will Forte as Shaggy, Zac Efron as Freddy, Amanda Seyfried as Daphne, and Gina Rodriguez as Velma. And oh my god, some of the worst casting possible. I guess not all of it is horrible if they weren't trying to do impressions of the original cast. They were just trying to do new different takes on these characters. But here's the thing. If you want to retell the story that's been retold a million times, by the way, it's the most remade cartoon of all time. That's not an exaggeration. It's remade every few years. There's a very big fan base here, me included, that loves and protects this material. You can't just change things willy-nilly. You need a reason to, or it's not going to go over well. Is that fair? Maybe not, but that's just the fact of the matter. And that being said, we have the current voice of Shaggy still working today. In fact, he's probably around the same age as the guy who played him in this. Matthew Lillard is the voice of Shaggy in almost everything since the live-action movies. Casey Kasem did return for a period, and then we had some other voices in there, but Matthew Lillard is the dominant voice in the industry for Shaggy. Why wasn't he cast in this? You got a lot of younger actors to play the rest of the characters, so maybe you were going younger, but Will Forte isn't young, and he sounds literally nothing at all like Shaggy. Like I don't think he was even trying to do an impression of him. If he was... worst impression I've ever heard. I don't think he was trying to sound like him, though. And that's just stupid and weird to me. And then as for the rest of the cast, I get it. The voice of Freddy is hard to mimic. The voice of Daphne is hard to mimic. Even the voice of Velma is hard to mimic because there's not a whole lot to the voices. They're very basic voices. They're not like Shaggy or Scooby, which have very obvious aspects to the voices that are easy to pick up on and easy to mimic. Velma's probably the easiest of those three, but still, they're all a lot more subtle. So I get it. Going into these voices, there's not a whole lot to pick up on, and generally people don't do impressions of them. You see in the live action movies, they don't try to do impressions other than Velma. They just let their own voices speak for them. I get it. But if you're doing a live action movie, it makes sense to just get actors that act and look the part and not worry about the voice because you're seeing their face the whole time and their voices are kind of basic, so it doesn't matter. If it's an animated movie, though, you don't need to get these young attractive people to play them. Just get people that sound like them. Just get the people that are currently doing the voices. It's not that hard. Once again, Frank Welker is the voice of Freddy. He played Scooby in this movie. Why didn't you cast him as Freddy too? Also, side note, what is with messing with and changing around Velma's ethnicity lately? We turned her into an Asian in those live action movies that sucked, by the way. And in this, she's very slightly Latina, and I don't know why exactly. Not a major complaint, just a question, an honest question. Why? We're not doing that with any of the other characters. We're not changing them to anybody else. Why are we messing with Velma so much? And in the live action one, when they changed her to be Asian, I assumed it was just because it was the stereotype of the smart girl being Asian, which is insensitive and pointless and stupid, but at least there was a reason behind it. This change made no sense, and I don't know why they did it. Did they just think that she was the best for that role? If so, why? She sounded literally nothing like Velma, so why? And then going back to Shaggy, I still don't get it. I still can't get over it. Why? He doesn't fit in with the rest of the cast as being young and attractive, which was a pointless thing to do anyway. And then also, he just sounds nothing like the character. It's awful, it's terrible, and I don't like it. So, okay, moving on from the cast, because the cast is the cast. How good is the movie, though? How good is it really? Just because the casting is weird and different than I wanted it to be, doesn't mean the movie's bad. The movie being bad is the reason it's bad. So this is a small spoiler, but it's not that big of a deal because this is all revealed in the first 20 minutes or so. You've got these other characters in this too, with Blue Falcon and Dynomutt and Dick Dastardly. Also, side note, this movie isn't a mystery, it's just action, adventure, family, drama, whatever you want to call it. So putting those pieces together, you realize that they're paying homage to a specific era in Scooby-Doo where there weren't mysteries anymore, and they added all these different characters in to make more of an interesting plot. And when you stop and think about it, that was the worst era in Scooby-Doo history, debatably. That was when everything was horrible because nobody wanted to watch Scooby-Doo anymore for whatever reason. It was, I guess, just a bit repetitive and old at this point. And so they were adding in different characters, and they were making them go off and do different things because mystery solving was boring now, and it was too predictable. And you're emulating that in this? Why are you trying to pay homage to the worst version of Scooby-Doo ever? Even if you did it perfectly, it's a perfect homage, then it's a bad thing that you're paying homage to. And this movie is bad. It's awful. It's terrible. It's no good. Especially when you look at that era and you realize that the only reason those movies and shows are remotely watchable is for the characters, obviously, and the characters work because of the chemistry and the humor. So how did these horrible versions of these characters do in this situation now that we've stripped them of their personality and given them these voices that don't make any sense, and on top of that, giving them writing that is awful and probably had, I don't know, about 3 jokes that were actually funny? Spoiler, it didn't go well. So as I watched it, I decided that I would write down some of the jokes just to keep a tab on how many good jokes there were and how many bad jokes there were. So like I said, there was a couple of good jokes. I'll leave those for spoilers though, for those of you who haven't seen it. I'll just let you know there's a couple of good ones, but there's not a whole lot. But here's some of the bad ones for you. Alright, picture the scene. They're in a jet. They're being chased by the bad guy in his jet. The pilot shouts out, "I can't shake him," so somebody tells them, "Press the shake button." Comedy! Next, the bad guy has Scooby-Doo in his grasp and he says, "The key lies within you." And Scooby replies, "I have no key. I have no pockets." Comedy! The Blue Falcon and Shaggy are being chased by the bad guys and Shaggy shouts out, "Drop the F-bombs." So Blue Falcon says, "Oh, come on man, keep it PG." And Shaggy says, "Not that, I mean the Falcon bombs." Comedy! You get the idea. These jokes are awful. And you can write it off and say, it's a kid's movie, of course a comedy isn't that good. Yeah, well, the original Scooby-Doo is a kid's show and kid's movie, and they're hilarious. This writing is just awful. And then you can fill in the other bad Scooby-Doo era quota of having a random celebrity appearance, because guess what? Simon Cowell is in this movie. That's cool, I guess. And so if there's not going to be a plot and there's not going to be a mystery, then it has to revolve around the relationship of these characters, because if we don't like the characters, then there's nothing likable about it. And if I'm being 100% completely honest, I cared more about the relationship between Dick Dastardly and his dog than I did between Shaggy and Scooby, even though there was this whole plot about them. And I won't give it away because of spoilers right now, but just think you took the relationship drama from Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 and just said, there you go, plot. This is one of the worst Scooby-Doo movies I have ever seen. And there have been some bad ones. It's probably not as bad, honestly, as The Reluctant Werewolf. That is probably the worst Scooby-Doo movie I've ever seen. But this is around as bad. It's close. And on top of just bad characters and bad writing and bad plot and all of that, you can throw in some bad editing, bad directing, and weird things shoved in there for no reason, like references to toxic masculinity. Scooby-Doo, am I right? And then on top of that, you've got Freddy and Blue Falcon as just these morons who do nothing and need to be helped through every single process by a female character because they're too stupid and know how to do it on their own. Especially Blue Falcon. He's got this black woman assistant who is so much smarter, so much more talented, so much more able than this superhero. For some reason, I don't know why. I don't know why that happened, but that's just the case. I didn't watch Blue Falcon and Dynamite at all as a kid. I don't know what they were like, but I just... If that's how they were like in the show, that's stupid too. I don't like it either way. I don't know. I'm gonna get into spoilers now because I just want to really dig into how bad this plot is because it's awful, and then I'll talk about some bad jokes too. So if you've seen it or you have no desire to see it now that I've ruined it for you, then you can sit back and relax and hear me rip into it a little bit more. But if you want it saved, you want to go watch it and then come back, go ahead, do that. But please make sure to like and subscribe and share. Thanks, guys. Bye. So, God, I can't believe Shaggy got trapped in the underworld. That was deep. And yeah, I know he got trapped there for all of 2 seconds, but it was still like, that was out of left field. This whole plot was out of left field. I almost thought for a second that they were shoehorning a mystery in at the end because you take off Dick Dastardly's mask and then it's Simon Cowell, but then you just take off another mask again and it's Dick Dastardly again. So it just devolved into a bad joke from there. It could have been good if it was done better. It just wasn't. So let's look at some of the good jokes. So first of all, by the way, for some reason, the one okay joke in the trailer where Scooby licks Shaggy and then Shaggy licks Scooby and then Scooby says, how about we don't do that again? They cut that out. That was one of like the only good jokes in the trailer and they cut that out for some reason. Don't know why, but anyway. You remember in the trailer that horrible, stupid moment where the cop is chasing Scooby? Well, apparently he's chasing him because he stole a bunch of meat. Anyway, so Shaggy says, oh no, he's not a stray, he's mine. And the cop says, oh, if he's yours, then what's his name? He says, Scooby, middle name, Doobie, last name, Doo. And he goes, well, if he's got a middle name, then I can't arrest him. That's just the law. So you took an awful, terrible joke that I thought was happening, and you turned it into an actually pretty good joke. That was actually funny. It made me laugh. Another actually good joke in this is that you've got the Blue Falcon saying, ring, ring, you hear that? That's Danger calling. And then Shaggy takes his hand and goes, yes, Danger, please take my name and number off your list. That was funny too. And that's about it. By the way, Captain Caveman was in this too because I guess we didn't have enough Hanna-Barbera characters. And when the mystery machine shows up, he goes, nice wheels, whatever wheels are. I see where you were going with that joke, but you didn't make it there. Oh, and Captain Caveman is played by Tracy Morgan, by the way. So I felt like every line he said was said like it was supposed to be a joke, but under the premise that because Tracy Morgan is saying it, therefore it's funny, so we don't need an actual punchline. Because everything he said, he had a tone of voice, and he had a delivery, like he was delivering a joke. But I don't think there were any jokes. Other than one moment where he's walking and it was like after a shot, it cuts away to them and he's like in the middle of a sentence and he says, so anyway, I found out I wasn't even really the dad of the Velociraptor, boopity boo. And you're like, what? That's not funny. That's just stupid and weird and strange, and I don't even know what words to say because I'm so flustered. There's been so many origin stories at this point, and there's been so many different versions of how the Mystery Gang got together and how they know each other and that whole dynamic, that this movie gave us nothing new and nothing interesting and nothing that I will ever remotely remember about it. It offered nothing new. The jokes were bad, the plot was pointless, the acting was off, and the casting was horrible. Nothing about this was really interesting at all. I honestly cared more about Muttley and Dick Dastardly than I cared about the Mystery Gang. And on top of that, like I said, you're shoehorning in this annoying drama where the gang acts like Shaggy and Scooby aren't important, which, like I said, is from Scooby-Doo 2, and then you've got a fight between Shaggy and Scooby, which was like in Scooby-Doo 1, and it's just all this pointless drama. There was so much going on. I didn't need all these characters and all these moving pieces. It was all so much that it just... if this was for kids, it was awful. Because they can't keep up with all of this. There's too many moving pieces that have nothing to do with anything. And if it was for adults, what adult would find this entertaining? I wrote notes for this. I don't normally write notes for first thoughts because normally I just watch a movie, go, this was like that. Then I walk out, I turn on the camera, and I talk about it. I had to write notes because I couldn't follow. My brain was so confused by this mess of a movie. It's like even the editing is bad, where the portal opens up to the underworld. I know, if you haven't seen it right now, you're going, what the The portal opens up to the underworld, and Cerberus comes out. You know, like in Scooby-Doo, that's what happens. And Dick Dastardly runs away scared. The next shot, a couple shots later I guess actually, we see Dick Dastardly through the portal walking around. We never saw him go in. Last thing we saw was him running away in fear. Why is he there now? Why am I still holding my phone? Oh yeah, and backing up by the way to the thing where I said like the whole gang for some reason thinks that Shaggy and Scooby aren't important, which for some reason is a narrative which I don't get, because if you go back to the original series, they were actually helpful and helped solve the mysteries, but whatever. So how we get back to the point of them realizing that Shaggy and Scooby are important, because obviously Fred's the tank, Daphne's the empath, Velma's the brain, or whatever. What do Shaggy and Scooby do? And their first conclusion is, why are we fighting with each other? Why are we bickering? Oh, it's because we're hungry because we didn't eat lunch. If only Shaggy and Scooby were here, they would have reminded us to eat lunch. It's like, value. Yes. And then eventually, yeah, they say, yeah, they're the heart of the group. It's like, yes. But it's so annoying because these characters weren't just one-dimensional in the original. They all had personalities, except for maybe Daphne a little bit. But even so, they all had personalities. They were all more than just one facet to them. Shaggy and Scooby actually did more than just lure them as bait. They often went out and tried to help find clues and solve the mystery. They were often with Velma, or maybe sometimes on their own, but they were out there trying to find clues. And Velma and Daphne and Fred were more than just one-dimensional characters too. Fred was smart and he could solve the mystery. He wasn't just some dumb idiot who was in charge and the leader because he's a white man. And also Velma, she did more than just be the smart person. She also was the person who would coax Shaggy and Scooby into doing something, because guess what? She was the heart of the group too. And then Daphne was not an idiot and a bimbo. She could also solve the mystery too and would find clues and would put pieces together. They all worked together and they were all intelligent. So why are we doing this where we're... I know a lot of modern Scooby-Doo movies and shows do this too. They ruin the characters in one way or the other. But I feel like this movie was like the combination of all the mistakes ever made. And on top of that, the casting sucked. I can't get over it. What was Will Forte doing in this movie? You got this guy who literally didn't even do a Shaggy impression. Like, he didn't even try. That sounded more like Shaggy than he did. I don't watch any more movies, man. 2020 is gonna have some messed up Oscars. And the Oscar goes to Sonic the Hedgehog. Thanks for watching, guys. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys thought. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.